Hello and welcome. This is Shirley Mears here on 1640 AM, and we're visiting again with Kathy Funston. And Kathy has a marvelous opportunity to kind of help us think through the things in our lives where we're stuck. Welcome, Kathy Funston.
Shirley, it's always a pleasure to be here, and I'm particularly excited to introduce our guest today, Kristin Davis. Kristin is the Executive Director of the Oklahoma Women's Coalition here in Oklahoma City, and their mission is to advocate for women and girls.
It's an important organization.
It very much so is. And Kristin Davis is here, and I'm going to ask her a few questions about who she is and what she does.
And how to find you, your website, all that good stuff.
Exactly. Kristin can be found at www.oklahomawomenscoalition.org. So, Kristin, I'm delighted to have you. How are you today?
I am great, Kathy. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Kristin, I want to start off by asking you a question. How is it that you are part of the Oklahoma Women's Coalition?
Well, it's interesting. It was kind of being at the right place at the right time. I was living in Arizona. I've been living away from Oklahoma for nearly 30 years, and I heard about the opportunity. The Oklahoma Women's Coalition was founded back in 2008, and about a year and a half ago, they decided that they'd reached the point where they needed an executive director to take the organization to the next level, and they began searching for an executive director. And I heard about this from a friend from high school that I grew up with here in Oklahoma City. She emailed me and said, "Kristin, I don't know what you're doing right now, but this position has your name all over it." And so I applied, and I felt like it was probably a long shot because I was living in the Phoenix, Arizona area at the time. But I applied and got the job, and I was absolutely thrilled to come back home. I'm fourth-generation Oklahoman and grew up here, and after I graduated from college, I decided to go off and see the world and lived in several different cities over the last 30 years. And this opportunity to come back to Oklahoma and be executive director of the Oklahoma Women's Coalition was a dream come true for me, because I've been able to not only work to fulfill an incredible mission of raising the status of women and girls in our state, but also feel like I can give back as an Oklahoman, and it's been an absolute thrill.
So when your friend said, "This has your name all over it," what specifically might that mean?
Well, throughout my career, I have focused heavily on women's issues in healthcare and in other areas, and it's always been a passion of mine through not only my work efforts, but also my volunteer efforts to work on various women's issues. I attended and graduated from Mount Holyoke College up in Massachusetts, which was the very first women's college established in the United States. And having come from that environment of being a very empowered woman and feeling like there are a lot of changes that have yet to be made, I've kind of made it my personal mission to do work in this area.
Wonderful. So tell me, what are some of the projects that the Oklahoma Women's Coalition engages in?
We focus on a number of women's issues and girls' issues that need to be addressed in our state. Unfortunately, and many people are not aware of this, but Oklahoma is ranked the second worst state in the country for women to live. And there are a number of factors that go into play towards that statistic. And unfortunately, there are issues such as the high rate of domestic violence. We are number one for female incarceration in the United States and in the world. We have just a number of issues that we need to focus on to make the state better for women and girls to live. And another issue that we focus on is human trafficking. A lot of people don't realize that Oklahoma City is a hub for human trafficking in our nation. The Oklahoma Women's Coalition is trying to tackle these issues through a two-pronged approach. One, through advocacy and trying to make public policy changes that are very necessary, and also through educational efforts. And one thing I'm very excited about is this spring, actually in February, we're kicking off an educational forum series that's free to the general public. And this will give us an opportunity to get out there and spread awareness, not only in the bigger cities, but out in the rural areas, and let people know about the issues that women and girls face.
I just am curious, what is it that Oklahoma City could be second to last? Is it education? Is it the culture? I mean, how so?
That's so interesting because I asked that question, and of course I'm asked that question a lot myself, and there are a number of different factors that come into play, and I think one would be lack of education or lack of access to education, lack of access to health care, such as mental health care. There are just a number of factors here, and there are also some public policies in place that need to be changed, laws that need to be changed to make it a friendlier environment for women. Right now, one of our big issue areas is female incarceration, and the fact that we are ranked number one in the country and in the world per capita rate of female incarceration is really appalling. And when I've gone around asking different state leaders, why are we number one for female incarceration? I hear time and again, it's the way women and girls are treated in our state. It's a cultural, societal issue. It's also an issue of the high prevalence of domestic violence and child abuse in our homes, and girls growing up in those environments and seeking self-medication. And we have such a high rate of substance abuse. And when you go along that path, you're very likely to head to the path towards prison. And that's just a fact.
That is astounding, and it's very saddening to hear that. This is Connect with Kathy on 1640 AM. Can you tell me a personal story about someone you know that has experienced some of this? To share like what it would be like for an individual to grow up here if they don't get the support they need?
Well, I have met a number of women and young girls who have been in just appalling situations, whether it's in a home where there is domestic violence or child abuse, other violence happening, or in, extreme poverty. And it's just so difficult to be able to feel empowered and feel that you have self-worth when you're growing up in an environment like that, and to feel like you have something of value to contribute to society. So in those kinds of environments, it's almost impossible for a young woman to grow to feel like she has something to give. I see it time and time again when I go around the state and talk to women who've been in situations of domestic violence or who have been incarcerated. Fortunately, we do have a lot of awareness. We have people and organizations who are becoming aware of these issues and are doing a lot of good work. We just have a long ways to go.
So if you had a magic wand and you could make a difference for our women and girls in our state, what would it look like?
I think I would start from the very core. I wish that I could go into every home in our state and make sure that every little girl feels empowered, that every little girl feels like she has something to contribute, that she's smart, that she's worthy and has a high self-esteem. I think that is a major problem in our society, and not just in Oklahoma, but across the country. Oklahoma, unfortunately, just has a higher prevalence of issues such as substance abuse and incarceration. These are issues we obviously need to deal with. I wish we could go on the front end and go to the root cause and tackle these problems head on and make sure that each one of our girls in this state is growing up in a nurturing, loving environment.
Wow, that's powerful words. What is your day-to-day like as the executive director?
My day-to-day, sometimes it's a little crazy. I am out and about meeting with people, obviously very involved in our community and in various civic organizations, and just trying to spread awareness of the issues that women and girls face. So I'm usually on the move. We have a wonderful board of directors at the Oklahoma Women's Coalition. We have approximately 23 women who serve on our board, and they are typically just incredible leaders throughout our state. Board members come from Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Norman, just all over, and they're incredible. And they do such good work, not only for the Oklahoma Women's Coalition, but for their respective organizations. So we have a very strong coalition. We have thousands of supporters. We have nearly 50 partner organizations that we work closely with that focus directly on these issues that we're facing. And it's a wonderful place to get involved and to feel like you can make a difference.
It sounds like anybody could get involved. Tell me, though, what do you do about the men? I mean, for domestic violence, there's a male factor usually. Do you do any work with men to stop the violence in the home?
We don't directly. However, we do have partner organizations who do, that we support and are part of our coalition. That is an interesting issue, and there are a lot of factors there. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on the end of the men's issue when it comes to domestic violence. I'm actually a survivor of domestic violence myself, and I do try to share my story simply to spread awareness. A lot of people, again, don't realize that it is such a prevalent issue here in our state. 1 in 4 women is touched by domestic violence in her lifetime. At least that's what the statistic is. I believe it's more like 1 in 2, because I think there are so many cases that are unreported.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of shame attached to being in that situation for women.
There is. There's so much stigma. And when I was going through my own situation, I was so ashamed and so embarrassed. It took weeks for me to actually open up and talk to my good friends and family about it, because it's so horrifying. And also, when you're in the midst of it, you just don't expect to be going through that kind of horror and that kind of shock. And so it takes time to pull yourself out. And some women, it takes them a lot longer because they don't have access to proper resources and they don't know where to turn. So it's extremely frightening.
I think that it's a blessing that you are with the Oklahoma Women's Coalition. You are a bright light in our state, and I'm so happy to have had you on with us today, Kristin.
Oh, thank you so much, Kathy.
Is there anything else you'd like to end with, a message that you would just like to briefly say to all the women and girls out there?
Well, I just hope that everyone out there listening can find a way to get involved in some of these issues, to visit our website, www.oklahomawomenscoalition.org. And there are so many areas that women and girls can get involved in to make a difference. We are kicking off our educational series on February 21st. We are having a forum, it's free to the public, on female incarceration. And we have some amazing speakers, including women who have been incarcerated who want to share their stories. And this forum, again, is on Thursday, February 21st at the United Way building in Oklahoma City from 11:30 to 1.
I hope to see you there. Thanks again, Kristin.
Thanks, Kathy.
Again, you can learn more about Kristin Davis by going to the website, oklahomawomenscoalition.org, and their phone number there is 405-286-0356. Very good having you with us, Kristin. And for those of you who haven't yet learned about Kathy Funston, her website is connectwithkathy.com. And what's your phone number there, Kathy?
405-600-9035.
This is Shirley Mears with 1640 AM, and we look forward to visiting with you again next time.
Join us again next week at connectwithkathy.com, 1640 AM.